Okay. Good afternoon. בשם השם נעשה ונצליח. This שיעור is לעילוי נשמת יחזקאל ברוך בן אברהם הלוי וחנניה בן ראובן, and all those who were murdered prior, on, and post October 7. And this is also for רפואה שלמה to אברהם בן חנה, זכריה דוב בן פרל שירה, אורה בת דליה, שמעון דניאל בן מיכל, and all our חיילים and all the sick people of Am Israel. This is also dedicated for our single, she's Kuliv not bait Ne'eman be'Israel. And I want to thank Hashem for all the chasadim that He has done and is doing and will be doing with us. And thank you to all my listeners who are tuning in and want to grow and learn more Torah. Hashem should bless you for wanting to learn and grow in Torah. So, we are in the days of Sefirat HaOmer. There's no way that we can go through the days of Sefirat HaOmer without speaking and learning about Rabbi Akiva. So who was Rabbi Akiva? Who were his parents? We know bits and pieces here and there about Rabbi Akiva, but we don't really know his background. So here it is. Rabbi Akiva was born after the Churban, the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. The Romans occupied Eretz Israel. The Romans actually occupied many lands. They would go to many countries, fight wars, and then their culture became the culture of that country. So in Eretz Israel, they were doing the same thing. They wanted the Roman culture to become part of Eretz Israel. And one of the things that was part of their culture was that they would build beautiful homes, beautiful places, not homes, but beautiful places wherever they went. In Israel too, unfortunately. These places were really places of ill repute. That means that they would have women, beautiful women in those places, and the Roman men were allowed to come anytime for free and get services for their enjoyment. Now, how did they support these places? It was free. So how did they support that? They supported these places by putting taxes on crops and just about all goods. If there were children that were born because of this enjoyment, so these children were sent away, far away, where they would be taken care by families until they would grow up. And then they would be, and obviously they would be taught the culture, the Roman culture. What they would do, they would actually take beautiful women, young girls, but they didn't care. They would even take married women. And obviously this really brought on a lot of problems and suffering and aggravation, broke families, and because also, unfortunately, Jewish girls were also kidnapped, girls and women who were married, and because of this, so there were families who actually moved to faraway villages or faraway countries, even as far as Africa, just so to be protected from these raids, so they would not be taken into these places. And this was really a horrible and terrible time and brought on a lot of suffering for Bnei Israel. And there was a Jewish woman, she was a widow, and she had a daughter by the name of Sarah. Both of them, the mother and the daughter, were very beautiful. And they had a neighbor whom we're going to call Yosef. We don't know his Roman name, but we're going to call him Yosef. And this Yosef really loved this Sarah, this Jewish girl, but she kept on pushing him away. He wanted to marry her, and she kept on pushing him away and telling him, listen, you're not Jewish. I can only marry someone who's Jewish. So please stay away from me. But he would ask her again and again. He never became nasty because of her pushing him away. He was always courteous. He was always correct. And but he cared a lot for her. And he was just being patient. He kept on asking. She would still keep on pushing him away. And this went on for a while. And this young man, who was Roman, obviously he was brought up in the Roman culture with all the pleasures of the Romans, with the hunting and horse riding and all their games and everything else. He was a Roman. But he was also a very decent human being. So even though he really wanted to marry the neighbor pushed him away many, many times, he still kept his cool, and he still always was very correct with his neighbors. And then one day, there was screaming going on. There was a raid. And the soldiers came, and they took away Sarah and her mother. Sarah and her mother tried to fight off. The more they tried to fight off, the more they were beating them up. And Yosef was at home. Yosef was not his Roman name, but we don't know his name from before. So we're going just to call him Yosef. And so Yosef was at home, and he heard the whole commotion. He heard the screaming. He heard the screaming of the women and of the soldiers. And he came out to see what's going on. And as he was coming out, he saw how Sarah and her mother were taken into a chariot, to a wagon, to be taken away. So he knew exactly what was going to happen. Quickly, he got his horse and he decided to follow them. They were taken to the house of the governor, the local governor. And the governor was actually looking at the women and telling them where each one was going to go. And then when he saw Sarah and her mother, since both of them were very beautiful, he decided he was going to send them to Rome, because in Rome, there was a huge, huge center for this kind of enjoyment. And so he sent them to Rome. And Yosef decided he is going to go to Rome. And he followed them. He went to Rome. But these two women, the shock and the trauma of going through this experience made them, both of them, sick. So by the time they reached Rome, they were very, very sick. They could not be taken to the center. And so they were taken to the hospital. Yosef, who had been traveling behind them, he saw how they were taken to the hospital and not to the center. And so he followed, and he went into the hospital. And so every day he would go, he would buy them whatever they needed, food or whatever it is that they needed. And he would inquire about them, he would talk to them, and he would take care of them every day. This went on for a little while. Nothing was changing. They were still very sick. And one day, Yosef was on his way to the hospital. And on his way, not far from the palace of the emperor, he saw there was a huge, huge party, a huge group of people. they were soldiers, and they were also hunters. And being a Roman, he decided, oh wow, I like hunting. Maybe I can join them. And so he went and he asked for permission. Permission was granted by the prince. He said, sure, you can think. So the prince gave orders that he should be given, he already had a horse, but should be given whatever else he needed for hunting. And the body was ready, and they left. So that day he didn't go to visit them, the women at the hospital. And so he went, and they went to a far away forest. It was a huge forest where they knew there were wild animals, beasts were there. They got there to the forest, and just outside of the forest, there were 4 leopards who were hungry, looking for food, and 5 lions who were also starved, hungry. They were roaring, and they saw this group of people coming to them. The lions said, here we have plenty of food, right? The hunters just were not ready for this kind of welcome. And right away there was a commotion. People got separated, and people were fighting, people were running away, trying to get away, and there was a whole mess, a whole balagan. And then it happened that the prince found himself alone, running away from these beasts. And he was riding his horse very hard, and he was riding. And then suddenly the horse tripped. The prince flew off the horse, and he fainted. He was there on the ground. A few minutes later, Yosef was also running on his horse. He was running on his horse. And he comes and he sees the prince is on the ground. So quickly he gets off his horse. He goes, he helps the prince who had not come back to himself. He tried to revive him. The prince woke up, and he says, let me help you. Let's go and get some water not far from here, and let's freshen ourselves. Let's get some water for our horses, and then we can see if we can join the rest of the party. And that's what they did. So they walked not far from from where they were. They found the water. They freshened up themselves. The prince definitely felt better. Still a little shaky, but felt better. And they gave water to their horses, and they turned around. They were just about to leave the place, get ready to go on their horses and leave the place, when there was one huge leopard that came out. And the leopard was looking at them, ready to pounce on them. And the prince just froze from fear, and he screamed a terrible scream. He just had gone through one trauma, and he was another one so soon after. He just wasn't ready for it. And he screamed. Yosef woke up from this scream, and quickly he grabbed the sword. He went to fight the leopard, and Baruch Hashem, he was able to kill the leopard. The prince just couldn't believe, and he threw himself at Yosef, and he said, we are going to be the best friend. You just saved my life twice. I don't know how to pay you back. I don't know how to thank you. And Yosef said, of course, this is my duty. Now let's try and go and see if we can go and find the rest of the party. But the prince said, from now on, we are going to be the best of friends, between you and me, and between your children and my children. Okay. So they went on their horses, they riding, and finally they meet the rest of the party, And the prince was very upset with his soldiers. What is this? You left me alone. You deserted me. I was left to danger, and there was no one there to help me. Thanks to Yosef who came and he rescued me, and he rescued me twice. And he explained to them. He said to the soldiers, "Now you all deserve to die. That should be your punishment." And they started to beg and cry and say, "Please, please, please, you understand, we all panicked, this and that." And Yosef also spoke to him, says this was a moment of panic. We did not expect to be welcomed by such a group of beasts. So please forgive them. Fine, the prince agreed to forgive them, and they kept on going. They spent the day hunting. By the time they came home in the evening, they had dead beasts with them, they had live beasts with them, and they were very happy at the end. Everything worked out for them. However, the prince took Yosef and said to him, "You're coming with me." He took him to the emperor and the empress, and he told them, "This man here, he saved me twice." And he told the whole story to his father and his mother. Wow, they could not thank enough Yosef for saving their son twice. And they started to give all kinds of gifts to Yosef, and they just know how to say thank you. This prince was supposed to be the next emperor, so they were very, very thankful. And obviously Yosef was invited to stay in the palace for a few days, and he would spend his days with the prince. They would be talking about all kinds of things, and then about second or third day, then the prince said to Yosef, you could choose any girl that you want, from royalty, from all those people who are here, and you can just choose any girl you want. You can have her. And so Yosef tried to change the subject and stay away from the subject. First time, second, third time, the prince understood. He said, "Hey, what's going on here? Are you hiding something from me? Remember, we are best of friends." And so Yosef said, "Look, I really have a girl that I really love and I want to marry. And this is what happened." And he told him about what happened to Sarah and her mother. And the prince said, "Okay, no problem. Let's go and visit." And so they went to the hospital. They visited Sarah and her mother. The prince saw right away that Sarah was really a beautiful woman. And he started to talk to Sarah, and he realized not only that she was beautiful, but also that she was very smart. And he said to Yosef, "Well, you really did well for yourself. You picked a very good woman." And he said, so Yosef said, can you please get them released from the hospital, and so they should not be taken to the center for women. And the prince agreed, no problem. Right away, they released the two of them, and they brought them to the palace. And they were presented to the empress. And the empress again gave gift to Sarah and to her mother. And then Sarah realized this is an opportunity that may not present itself again, ever. So right away, she went on the floor. She went with the feet of the queen, and she begged and cried and said, "Please, this is what's going on. They're taking Jewish girls against their they're being kidnapped. They're taking them. They're taking women who are married. They're breaking families. The Jewish girls are so miserable. Please, please, I beg of you. Please, look what happened to us, and look how sick we got. And this is what's happening to the Jewish girls. Please." She begged so much. The empress says, "Okay, I am going to speak to the emperor about this." And so she did. She kept her promise. She spoke to the emperor, and the emperor right away, he said, "Okay, I'm going to make a new rule a new law, and he decreed that all Jewish girls and women were to be sent back home, and that no more raids of Jewish girls and Jewish women. That was a huge, huge salvation, a huge, huge Yeshua for Am Israel. Now, Yosef and Sarah and her mother had no reason to stay in Rome. They decided to go back home to Lod. That's where they lived. When they reached Lod, so now Yosef said, shouldn't you be getting ready to get married to me? And Sarah said, I'm sorry. You have been so kind and so good to us. And we are very, very grateful to you about it. But you're not a Jew. You're not a Jew. I cannot marry you. I can marry only someone who is Jewish. If you want, I will. If you want, think about it. If you want to convert, I will marry you. But only if you convert. She said, okay, give me time to think. And he thought and decided, yes, this is what I want to do. And so she said, okay, I will help you. I'll help you to learn, but you have got to learn for a full year. And I will help you. And I'll take you to the proper place, to the proper rabbis who are going to help you study. And so this is what she did. She took Yosef to Dosa ben Harkinas, who was a very, very big Tana. And she told the whole story, and how because of him now many Jewish girls and women were being protected. And he was very impressed. And he said, someone who is so good, sure, he has such good qualities, he definitely deserves to get a chance to gerut. And so that's what he did. And he started to learn with him. And they were learning. But as they were learning, Yosef actually enjoyed his learning. Until one day, they came to the part where someone who wants to convert only to get married to a Jewish person, whether a girl or a man, that gerut is not kosher. It's not kosher. So he realized, oh, what's going on? Now it means I cannot marry Sarah. And so he went home, heartbroken. But he said, this is what it takes. And he had taken to Torah so much, he says, and I can't do it. So he told Sarah, you go and marry someone else. And I'm going to go and marry someone else. Because the gerut is not kosher. Conversion is not kosher. So Sarah, who by that time already loved him very much, has seen his sterling qualities, she said to him, no, wait, let's go to the rabbi. And they went back to the rabbi, and Sarah explained to the rabbi what was going on. Rabbi said, okay, let me learn some more with him, and then we're going to see. And so the rabbi was learning with him, but as he was learning with him, he was every now and then asking questions to find out, is this man really learning for the sake of Torah? And really wanting to convert for the sake of Torah? For the sake of Hashem? Or just to marry this Jewish girl? And then after a while, he was convinced, and he said, no, this man definitely wants to get married to, he definitely wants to convert because of the sake of the truth, because of the sake of Hashem. And he wants to have part of the Torah. And so he called Sarah and he spoke again, and Yosef, and he said to them, after all these weeks, and could have been even months, that I'm checking, I'm seeing, and I am talking to you, I see that you have a pure heart, and you really want to convert because of you want to become Jewish, not because of Sarah. So there is no problem. You may marry her. Go and marry her. However, she said to him, you have got to learn more. And he was learning for 3 more years. Finally, they got married. They got married and they had a child. And that child was Akiva. When the child was 2 years old, when Akiva was 2 years old, his mother died. We don't know if she was sick or what happened to her, but all we know is that the mother died. The husband, Yosef, was so heartbroken that he didn't last. A few months later, he also died. And so now Akiva was left all by himself. There's no one to take care of Akiva. There was, however, a Jewish woman who happened to be home when all this happened, when the father died, and she knew there was no mother anymore, and this child is alone. So she decided she's going to take care of Akiva. She worked really in the house of Kalba Savua in Yerushalayim. Kalba Savua was one of the 4 richest persons in Yerushalayim. And she decided she works there, so she's going to take him where she works. She didn't come home every day. And so she took him to Yerushalayim. However, this child was not given any education at all. He grew up and ignorant. He didn't know how to read. He didn't know how to write. Nothing at all. And so she took him. She took him and he lived there. As he grew up, he was given certain responsibility, helping around, and then he became a shepherd. In the house of Kalba Savua, he would see many times Talmidei Chachamim coming in. And these Talmidei Chachamim were honored so much. They were, every time Kalba Savua would make a huge feast for these Talmidei Chachamim. Every time they would come, and it was like a holiday. But they never said a word to him. And he said to himself, what is this? What are these people? And he came to the point where he didn't like them at all. And he said, if I could, I would bite one of them just like the bite of a donkey. Fine. But this is what he saw every now and then in the house of Kalba Savua. And he grew up and he got married. He had a child. And one day, while he was in the field with the sheep, he was very, very far, and it was a very hot day. He went very, very far. He had finished the water that he had brought with him. And he felt weak from the sun. The sun was so hot. And he got on walking and walking and at one point he felt, this is it, I can't walk anymore. He fell on the ground and he stayed on the ground. But he knew that they were people who would be traveling not far from where he was. People usually used to travel in groups in those days. He says, okay, people are going to pass by. I'm going to ask them to help me. Sure enough, not too long after, one group of people passed by, and he called out, please help me, give me water. People did not even pay attention. Just went on. First group, second group, third group. What is this? And he really felt getting weaker from the sun, from not getting water. And then the fourth group came by. They also didn't want to stop, except that in that group, with that group, there was Hananiah. Who was Hananiah? A very big Talmid Chacham. He was the father of Rabbi Yoshua ben Hananiah, who we learned about him in the Haggadah. And he says, wait, stop. This man needs help. He went, he got off his camel, he took the water, he gave it to Akiva to drink, and he stayed with him for a little while until Akiva felt better. And then he said to him, look, you take this jar, now that you are feeling better, until you reach the water, so you can fill it up again. There was some water still in it. And when you go back, you'll be able to fill up again, and you'll have enough water for going back to where you need to be. I am not far from the city, and I am with a group. So there's no problem with me not having my jar of water. And he left him. Rabbi Akiva was so impressed when he saw the kindness, the chesed, the gentleness of Hananiah. He said, wow, this is what Torah does to people. Then I also want to learn Torah. And that was the first time when he ever thought of ever learning Torah. The first time ever in his life. And so since that day, every day, it bothered him. I want to learn Torah. Bothered him because he didn't know if he would talk to his wife. He didn't know if his wife would agree to this, to wanting to him learning, and then who's going to support them. They had a child. And how to go about it. Would he be able to understand and take it all in? He didn't know. But it bugged him for a few weeks. And he still did his job, but he was thinking a lot about this. And one day he was by a waterfall, and he noticed there was a stone. That stone had a hole. And he's thinking to himself, what's this? Where is this hole coming from? How did this hole happen on this stone? And then he's looking and he sees there is a drip of water. And the drip is dripping and dripping and dripping and dripping onto the stone. And that's how the water made a hole in the stone. And he said to himself, wait a minute. If the water over time can make a hole in the stone, then for sure, if I learn Torah and I study and I study and I study and I review, I'll also be able to take it in and understand it. But he still had the problem how to bring this to his wife and tell her that he wants to learn. Sometimes later, he still hadn't said a word to his wife. He comes home one day and something had happened to his wife. She had died that day. Now he's all by himself. He finds himself in the same position as his father with a small child. And he was crying and he was desperate. How am I going to do? How am I going to take care of the sheep? How am I going to do my job? How am I going to do what I want to do? If there's a child here, and obviously I have to take care of the child. But what am I going to do? He was crying. He was not really focused in his job, and he didn't know how to go about life, how to carry on. And then comes Rachel, the daughter of Kalbasavua. She knew all the shepherds because she used to help her father with business, and she had noticed that Akiva was very different from all the other shepherds. He would take care of the sheep very differently from all the other shepherds. She saw in him those beautiful qualities. And she saw now how he was tormented, how he didn't know what to do but himself with his child, and no wife to what to do, how to carry on in life. And so one day she came to him and she said, I have a proposition for you. I will marry you. I will take care of your child. I will take care of you. But on one condition, that you learn Torah. Wow, Akiva was very surprised. And so he comes and he says, well, are you sure? Do you know what you're saying? You know, how is your father going to react to this? Like, there's a lot going on here. She says, no, I know what I want. And I know you are destined to become the Gadol Hador. And so she goes to her father and she tells him, Abba, I want to marry Akiva. Father said, what? He's my shepherd. He's an ignorant. Even if he was my shepherd, but at least he knew Torah, okay, that's not a problem. But he's an ignorant. How can you marry someone who is an ignorant? No way. I can't accept something like this. She said, but I want to marry him. I know he has beautiful midot. He's going to become Gadol Ador. No, her father said, no way. Leave. Go. If you want to marry him, then leave. You cannot stay in my house. I cannot agree to this. And so Rachel takes whatever she owns, whatever she can, and she lives with Akiva. And so they go to a village not far from Yerushalayim. And in that village, that night, they get married, and then they find a place, a hut to live in. That night, unfortunately, thieves came and stole whatever valuables they had with them, so that we had nothing. What did they have? They were dirt poor. And in the morning, they would wake up. Akiva would remove from her hair the straws, the little pieces of straws that were stuck to her hair. And he would tell her, one day, I'm going to be wealthy, and I'm going to give you a crown, to make you a crown with Yerushalayim on it, a golden crown. And so, but Rachel did not give up. She did not give up. She was still focused. She wanted him to go and learn Torah. A few years passed, and she is trying to push him to go and learn Torah. But he says, but I'm embarrassed. It means I have to go and learn in kindergarten, where the kids are old enough to be my children. I'm so embarrassed and I'm ashamed. How am I going to do this? So Rachel says, okay. And so the next morning, they owned a donkey. Rachel takes mud. I don't know exactly how she was able to put that mud on top of the donkey. With the mud, she wet it, and she put grains of wheat, and she put that on top of the donkey. And she told her, Akiva, now go to the shuk, go to the market, and come back in the evening. So he went to the market, and people laughed. What is this? What's going on here? What is this? What are you trying to grow something from the back of the monkey? And they were laughing like there was no tomorrow. He came home, and Rachel said, so what happened? People laughed. They laughed so much. She says, okay, don't worry. The next day again, she did the same thing. And she told him, okay, go to the market again. And he went again to the market. Somehow he kept himself busy, but I don't know, whatever it is. But people laughed, but less people. He came back home after the second day, and he said, yeah, people laughed. She said, well, as many as the first day? No, less. Good. I saw it the third day and the fourth day, but that it was the fifth day. Nobody even paid attention. It was not a novelty anymore. That's it. People got used to it. And so Rachel said, you see, the first day people are going to laugh. But by the fourth, fifth day, people are going to get used to it. And they're not going to pay attention anymore. And that's what pushed him to go and learn. And he really sat in class in kindergarten. Then he moved up very quickly, being smart and wanting so much to learn. He moved up very quickly. First grade, second grade, third grade, and on and on and on. Until within 2 years, he had learned the Chumash and he had learned the whole Tanakh. But now it was time for him to go to yeshiva already. In Yavne, that's where the men's center was. Yeshiva was in Yavne. And Rachel said, I want you to go. I'll take care of myself and the kids. I had a few kids. I'm taking care of the kids. You just go. Don't worry about me. And she gave him permission to go for 12 years. And so Akiva went for 12 years. He did some jobs here and there to support himself. But whatever he had was not enough to support his wife. But she supported herself. She cleaned houses. She was a helper in houses. And that's how she was able to support herself and her kids. And then, after 12 years, Akiva said, I have got to go home. And he went home. He was just about to knock and go inside when he heard two voices inside. One voice said, Rachel, your father was so right. What did you do? You got married to an ignorant. Now he left you. He's not ever coming back for you. Look at you. You're so poor. Go back. Go to your father. Beg for his forgiveness. But at least you'll live a normal life. Look at you. And Rachel said, no. I know my husband went to learn. And if my husband wanted, and he wanted to stay for another 12 years, I would let him. And so Akiva did not even knock on the door. He didn't see his wife. He didn't speak to his wife. He just turned around and went back to Yavne. And he stayed there for another 12 years as his wife wished. And so he stayed for 12 years. And then he came back to Gadol Hador. She had been right. He came back with thousands of 24,000 Talmidim. He came back. People found out that Rabbi Akiva, the Gadol Hador, was coming into this village. They were lining the street. People came from all over, from Yerushalayim, from all over, just to come and meet the Gadol Hador. People were lining the streets. And Rachel was getting ready also to go. And that same neighbor came again, knocking on her door, and said, Rachel, okay, he came back, but look at you. Your clothing is all tattered. She said, so, but it's clean. So go borrow a dress. Go buy a dress. No, she said. No, I'm going to meet my husband the way I am. And that's what she did. She left and she went. She was standing up, lining up just like everybody else. And she was waiting for her husband to come. And then people started to sing and clapping and dancing from happiness. The Gadol Hador is here. And they're walking and they're walking and walking until they come almost to her level. And so Rachel leaves her spot and starts walking towards Rabbi Akiva. And the men were around him. They said, lady, you can't come now to the Gadol Hador, to the rabbi, not now. But Rabbi Akiva had seen her. Yes, she had grown older, but he knew who she was. And he says, stop, let her be. I want her by my side. Because all of my Torah and all of your Torah all belongs to her. It's thanks to her. She's the one who pushed me and made me who I am today. And so together they walked. And there were people who came, rich people, please come to our house. I have a mansion, I have this. And Akiva refused. He said, no, I am going where my wife is going. And he went to that little hut that she owned still. And every day people came. They would come for brachot, for advice, and Akiva would give the brachot and give advice until one day Kal Basavua came. Now Akiva recognized him right away, but Kal Basavua did not recognize Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva recognized Kal Basavua, but Kal Basavua did not. And so Kal Basavua comes in and he says, how can I help you? Right? Rabbi Akiva says, how can I help you? Yes. And he says, look, I have a big problem. I don't know what to do. He says, what's the problem? He says, I have one daughter who I threw out of the house many years ago because she wanted to marry an ignorant. And I don't know what happened to her. I don't know if she's alive or dead, where they are, if she has children. How did she live her life? I don't know what to do. I wish I could find her. I wish. And Rabbi Akiva says, oh yeah? And what if I tell you I know where she is and she's alive? Really? Please bring her. Can you bring her to me? Can you take me to her? I really want to see her. Please. He says, okay, I'll bring her to you. And so Rabbi Akiva leaves him. He walks around. And he goes to his wife and he says, come, your father is here and he wants so much to see you. And so Rachel comes in. You can imagine how emotional this meeting was between the father and the daughter. And then and she said, "This is Akiva. This is Akiva the shepherd." And the father realized that she had been right all along. And he said, "I'm changing my will right now. All my riches, I'm giving them to you, Rabbi Akiva." And so Rabbi Akiva, now he didn't stay anymore in that hut. He moved into his father-in-law's mansion, and he kept the promise he had made to Rachel. He made her a golden crown with Yerushalayim on it. And he became the great man that his wife knew he would be. And because of her focus, because of her encouragement, he became who he became. And so, because it's the Sephirah, there was no way we could have gone through Sephirah without actually learning so much about Rabbi Akiva. So in my next shiur, Be'ezrat Hashem, we will learn about the Ve'ahavta le'acha kamocha that Rabbi Akiva spread so much and brought our attention to it, of what a big principle of the Torah, what an important principle of the Torah it is. So Shabbat Shalom, and we'll see you soon.